Hello to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to your annual classroom, Adarna. Maraming salamat sa pagkakataong makapagbahagi ng ilang ideya ukol sa tema ng ating pagtitipon, Building Our Nation Through Books. Ako po si Dina Ocampo, guro sa UP College of Education at taga-suporta sa mga nakakatuwang proyekto ng ating malikhain at masayang Philippine Board on Books for Young People. I told Annie Almario the other day that I've been thinking about how to convey my thoughts in this forum, especially with a very impressive lineup of discussants. Each of them brings a point of view that put forward key issues in our world and how these can be explained, discussed, and solved with readers, especially child readers. Hopefully, some of the ideas I will share will resonate with their messages. Oftentimes, nation and country are used interchangeably. So I thought that the best way to start our talk today is to clarify this at the onset. This is our country. It's a physical space with an awesome range of bio and human diversity, as in awesome, huge number. But our discussion today is about nation. How do we differentiate a nation from a country? How do we imagine it? How do books contribute to building it? So, essentially, what is a nation? According to Benedict Anderson, in his landmark book, Imagine Communities, a nation is actually something that people construe, that we decide to become a nation, that we imagine ourselves to be bound together as a nation. So, what are the precursors of a nation? What happens is that community members imagine ways, territories, and his or her stories. These are the elements that he identified as key to the construction, to the formulation of a nation. For example, ways of life are identified as shared or common. And this is enshrined or shown in one of our favorite books, Ang Araw sa Palengke, an award-winning book by May Tobias Papa and drawn by Isabel Rojas. No? And in this book, it talks about a little girl's activities and thinking and musings in the market. And if we share going to market together, then we must be a community and we must have something in common. Language is another binding factor of a nation. Um, in the Philippines, we have over 170 languages. Sometimes they say 180 or more. And these languages are unique to groups or communities, but we also have a language that brings us together. We have Filipino, we have English, and these two languages bring us together. However, it does not diminish any other language in the country. All these languages are important and they are a feature of the Filipino people as a nation. Being multilingual is a gift that we all have. And so we should leverage that gift for our progress. Third, flora and fauna. We identify ourselves because we are able to recognize the plants and animals around us, and these are endemic to our country, and I think it's very important for us to be able to feature that in our stories. And so in Mahiyaing Manok, the wonderful noisy rooster is what is the center of the story, and therefore a lot of children are able to attach themselves to this story because of this rooster, Onyo. Then there are histories or stories. And these histories and stories are told through storybooks. In this book, Isang Harding Papel by Ogie and Ogie Rivera and drawn by Romel Hoson, it tells about a little girl's experience during one of the key moments in our history where we took back our power as a people from a dictator. Writers, illustrators, storybooks, storytellers, books in general. These are the vehicles that actually immortalize and articulate what binds us together. And this is how the book industry, the creative people who make them, this is how they have helped build our nation. They talk about our identity as a nation. Ako ay isang mabuting Pilipino. Ayon dito sa libro, ito ang mga ginagawa ng mabuting Pilipino. Batay sa kanta ni Noel Cabangon at guhit ni John Mike Tejido. So identity is described here. And this is also a topic that was discussed by our very own national hero, one of our most important people of the Philippines, Jose Rizal, who talked about who we were, who we are at that time when he wrote it, who we could be, which is our aspiration as a people, and who we will be. If we do this, we will be like this. If we do this, we will be like this. If we learn from history, we will be like this. So these are very important points of view that are put forward in books. And I'm very glad that up to now our children are reading this in schools. Then we also recognize Filipinos are here, there, and everywhere. And this is very important because when we talk about a nation, we don't just talk about the Filipino who is in the country. We talk about the Filipino who is away and why that person is away. Why he has or she has to work somewhere else rather than in this country. These are important issues to put into books and to discuss with readers. So Pinoy's Abroad, one of the books that discusses this, is one venue which talks about the Filipino out there in the diaspora, and that's very important for children to understand. We also are a nation when we recognize ourselves as a cultural and political group, that we identify ourselves as a polity, as a group of people with power to be able to create changes, to be able to determine our future, to be able to name our past and how we would not like to go back to that past, and how we would like to chart our ways forward. So, for example, in this book, it tells our children about what that dictatorship was and what it did to our people in that time, what it continues to do to us now. And these are very important to name, to articulate. A nation also has an awareness of unity, even across distances. So we feel that even if your relative is in Saudi Arabia or in working in Indonesia, we are united with these people. The funny thing about being a nation, and this is another thing that Benedict Anderson talked about, is that we don't really know who are members of the nation faced individually. But you know, when you walk in an airport anywhere in this world or in a large city anywhere in this world, and you just walking the main road, in less than 10 minutes you will find a Filipino and both of you will recognize each other. And so there's unity and they say, "Uy, kabayan." And that brings so much joy when it happens. No? And so I think that this kind of unity is very important to recognize. And that joy, meeting somebody overseas, that joy we should also have here when we meet a person on the street, especially now that we are locked up in our homes. When we meet somebody, we should be able to articulate joy in talking to another Filipino. In Hinlalaki, The unity is brought together by the thumb, as we all probably know. And that point of unity in pushing together and working together is what created harmony amongst the fingers of the hand. Finally, one of the other things that Benedict Anderson identified is that nations are conscious of common interests. And so in this recent book published by the PBBY, Pagkatapos ng Unos, it shows the, the concerns, the dangers, the fears that come along with climate change and what can be solutions to it. It challenges the reader to think about this. And it, you know why? Because it is a wordless book. It just evokes the language from us because somebody showed us beautiful pictures that talked about our common interests and our common growth as a people, because we need to be careful of our biodiversity and human diversity. Our nation's past is enshrined in books that underwent rigorous development. And I think this is a key feature of how books can build a nation. We must make sure that our books are based on good research. It doesn't matter if the reader is a 1 year old, or a 3 year old, or a 90-year old. What is important is what is in that book can stand on its own because it is telling us something true, something sincere, something honest. And I think it does not just that just doesn't stand for books about history. It talks about the honesty and the sincerity in experiences. For example, one of my most favorite books is Tuwing Sabado. Tuwing Sabado is about the visit of a family to their father who is imprisoned. And it's really heart tugging in its sincerity to talk about this issue that a child faces, going to a prison, visiting the father, and trying to build a relationship with that parent. I think that being rigorous in developing a story and the accompanying illustrations is key to building a nation of readers who can actually stand and grasp these messages because they know it was done sincerely. Books also talk about our nation's present. And again, in this particular story of Kian, it is a fact based story developed by the PCIJ. This is our present, and we need to be able to discuss that. This is a book that, oh my God, is taking over Netflix for Filipinos here and abroad. Books that string together our culture, our folklore, our social trials and ills. The book such as Trece embodies our past and present stories. So many children latch on to this. Teenagers latch on to this because they recognize themselves in these characters. Not that they're aswangs, but they know that they're experiencing similar um, challenges, similar joys, similar activities. Also, finally, books can bring to our consciousness the changes we need to enact as individuals so we can all have better futures. Ako Ang Bayan is a book that talks about that. And so, if we are able to share more of these books with children, then we are able to give them a hopeful future, a future which we will be proud of, a future that we will be happy to pass on to younger people. I hope that with this short sharing session, I've been able to clarify how we have become a nation, what are the features of a nation, how our books are able to support nation building because we support identity, we support our political, cultural togetherness and unity, as well as we know what are the important issues that affect us as a nation. I hope that the next sessions will be very fruitful and useful for you. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope you have a wonderful conference. Take care.